So this weekend, me and my wife are up here, and it's going to rain tomorrow, so we only have one day. That's nice. But we're going to come back here and start hinge cutting this area. I have 3 different sections in our woods that I have hinge cut an area for bedding and to thicken it up, because our woods are pretty open. You can see more than 100 yards in many different spots, so I want to thicken it up for the deer. But it's going to be a balancing act back here, because we also want to maple syrup in the future, and there is a lot of nice hard maple here. This is all sugar maples through here, most of it, and getting firewood. So I want to make decent trails through here for the tractors to run through. I think I'm going to make like a figure-8 type trail through here. And so we're going through now, trying to pick out the trees, because I want to reduce the canopy by 50%. Half the canopy I want gone to let in light, so it thicken up this woods, so there's more food for the deer and also more cover for them. Because we kind of have a monoculture of more mature trees through our woods. So this is one of our spots that we're going to do here, and you can see all the hard maple through here. But we're kind of going through here. This has been logged last year, and we're picking out the spots where they ran their skidders through. So that's already a natural trail, and we're marking it with orange flagging and looking to either side and picking out what trees are good to keep for syrup, and which ones we want to eliminate to let in light for the canopy. So any maples that have bad spots in them, I'm going to try to hinge cut if they're small enough. And the basswood, like these 2 right here, this is 2 basswood. So we can cut both of those down and drop them here. They'll be right next to this trail that we're on right now. And they'll let in light for the deer. They'll let in light for the deer. And then also we can pick them up for firewood later. So I think we're going to drop these 2, and there's a maple behind me with a bad... There's also a maple behind me with a bad spot up halfway on this tree. So I think we're going to attempt to hinge cut that. It's about 10 inches diameter. So it may hinge cut, it may not, it may just fall down, but then we can use it for firewood. It's not that far from this trail that we're going to cut through. So it's kind of a balancing act to trying to figure out all this stuff with as far as deer cover, firewood, and maple syrup.
It actually echoed.
Okay, now that one's going to go this way, so you'll have to move over here.
job.
All right, so here's this maple tree. It's got a bad spot kind of in the top. It's got a bad spot about halfway up, so that's why we're going to drop this one. It's kind of on the verge of being too big to hinge cut, but I'm going to try it because it's leaning already, so I know where it's going to go. When you hinge cut, you just want to cut as little as possible until the tree falls, so you have more meat left on the tree connected, and then it'll continue to grow. So, and the other thing you want to do is try to make the fall as, what's the word, as easy as possible.
Gentle?
As gentle as possible. You want to make the fall as gentle as possible. So I'm going to try to go on the left of this tree that's right in line with where this tree is going to drop. I'm going to try to brush it through that tree on the left-hand side. I don't want it to get hung up, but I want it to slow the rate of fall. So I also have a habitat hook here, and that'll help. Once I get through, I can either wedge it or use the habitat hook to try to push it over. So it has a push and pull design. It's got spikes to grip the tree, and then also you can extend it out. So I usually have it on the second one. When it's on the third, it's pretty heavy and cumbersome, and it's not as strong. So I like to have it on the second one. But I'll just keep this beside me, and like I say, try to cut this tree where it's just starting to move, and then assist it over with the hook and wedges.
Too big.
So there you go. That tree was just too big. Some trees hinge better than others, and it seems like these sugar maples aren't the best from what I've seen. They almost have to be about no bigger than this is what I found last year, but I decided to make the same mistake this year. So I won't make that same mistake again. I'll just cut them down, drop them. It'll still accomplish what I want to do, and that's let in more light to the forest floor. So this is what we're looking for. It's got a lot of wood left, so that will stay alive as long as it's getting enough light down here. So we're going to cut a couple more of these trees to let in light here. We need to do this area anyway. But the reason this one stayed together was it hit one other tree. You can see it busted off. You can see that tree that busted off, it slowed its fall. So it stayed together instead of hitting the ground and just breaking off. So now we successfully hinge cut this tree over here. And now this one's decent. I don't know if that one's going to live or not, but it is a good spot to support these small trees right here. And I can cut these down and drop them on top of here and make like a little canopy, and this spot right here would be probably a good spot for a bedding area. Originally, before this was all logged off, this was where the deer had bedded down naturally, and then the loggers came and logged the neighbor's property quite extensively. So when he was here, I told him he could come in here because I was planning on hinge cutting this anyway, and he came in and cut out the ash because we have the ash borer coming through here. and I told him to take the tops and put them in piles, and you can see that's what he did. It's kind of a mess around here. So I'm continuing to hinge cut more trees to let in more light, and I'm using the spots where he had put all the tops as areas where I can hopefully drop those trees to, so the trees don't fall heavily on the ground. It softens, cushions the fall, and it'll keep them together more. And then also, so we not only got money for the ash trees, it cleared out this spot that I wanted to kind of thicken up anyway. So it was a win-win. But this guy's land is now going to thicken up, and I want mine to be even thicker. So the deer hopefully will bed here, and it's right on the edge of his property. So if he's hunting in here and he's walking around and making noise, these deer are bedded right here. They'll be able to flee deeper into my land is the goal. So they'll be kind of able to keep tabs on him, and if they get pushed, they'll push toward, you know, us hunting on our land. So So what I did was walk down the future trail that I was going to create, keeping my eye to the sky, and where I would see an area that needed the canopy removed, I would look for a tree that had a bad spot or looked sickly and would take that tree. If there wasn't one, I would try to take a basswood. And if that wasn't possible, then I would sacrifice a nice maple tree. But it would provide more cover and food for the deer, and also firewood for us. So it was a acceptable trade-off in my mind. And I only had to cut down about 3 or 4 that would have been good producers of sap in the end. I definitely think that this is a two-man job too. One guy on the habitat hook pushing the tree over, and he's putting pressure on it. As you get about halfway through the tree, you can start pushing on it, and then you can see that tree start moving and then let off the saw. Because I've tried to do it by myself, where you cut into the tree a little bit, put the saw down, grab the hook, and then the tree won't go over, and then you get back on the saw, and then you cut too much of the tree and it starts already falling, or when you do get on the hook, it falls over almost instantly, and there's not enough meat on the tree left to facilitate growth once it drops. So I would definitely use two guys doing this. So here's that spot finished now. I've laid a couple trees over the top of this, so this will kind of be a backstop. Hopefully that'll all be green, growing come summertime, and the deer can bed in this little open area here and feel safe that they're not going to be seen from that way. I should say, if the wind's blowing from this direction, they can smell anything coming from their backside, even though they can't see it because it's protected. By the way, that blind is moving. And then from this way, they'll be able to see, danger coming from in front of them. So I think we got the canopy where I want it for now, until I come here in the summertime and actually see the leaves on the trees. It looks kind of thick now, but this is on an angle. You got to kind of look up and walk around, and then you see a lot more open spaces. But the biggest thing I found is, when you hinge cut, you can't just come into the forest and start hinge cutting the trees that you're able to hinge cut the smaller ones, because all the big ones with their big canopy, is blocking the sunlight to get down to these trees once you drop them on the ground, and they're not going to grow. So the goal is to actually have these trees that are horizontal actually leaf out and provide cover on the side and food for the deer. So you have to be mindful of cutting the bigger trees first, get them on the ground, open up the canopy, and then drop the smaller trees that you can hinge. Because if you do it the other way around and you make all these little areas and then you drop a big tree and it smashes and it'll just destroy what you created. So you got to drop the big trees first, and then the ones that you're able to hinge second. So we've opened up a couple more areas, but you can see there's a large space in the canopy there, and one in here. It's opened up in these different areas, and that's all going to let light in throughout here and thicken this whole area up. Now I have a stand behind me, a 6x6 elevated box stand, and the deer do come in here to bed. I see them all the time this last fall. And now that I dropped these trees, this is April, this is a perfect time of year. Deer are having a hard time finding food and stuff, so we've dropped, I don't know how many trees now, probably 10. So that's going to be a lot more food on the ground for them to get at, all the buds and stuff. So the goal is now, when this all leaves out, we'll come in here, it dries out, and we'll be able to cut our trail in, get all the brush off the ground so the tractor can get through there. Hopefully I can level it out a little bit, because if there's a lot of knobs and stuff on the ground, humps and stuff, and I have to hopefully level that out a bit. But once we're in here, we get the tractor trail through here, we'll be able to collect sap and wood. We'll be able to pick these trees out of here and skid them out. And then also we can do little interconnecting trails for the deer to get through this maze of brush, and that way they will use it more because they'll feel safe and that they can travel in and out freely. So we'll see down the road how all this works out, in the future.